Hey y'all, new day, new verses as we continue into Matthew 9, today verses 18 through 26. Here we go. As Jesus was saying this, the leader of a synagogue came and knelt before him. "My daughter has just died," he said, "but you can bring her back to life again if you come and lay your hand on her." So Jesus and disciples got up and went with him. Just then, a woman who had suffered for 12 years with constant bleeding came up behind him. She touched the fringe of his robe, for she thought, "If I can just touch his robe, I will be healed." Jesus turned around, and when he saw her, he said, "Daughter, be encouraged. Your faith has made you well." And the woman was healed at that moment. When Jesus arrived at the official's home, he saw the noisy crowd and heard the funeral music. "Get out," he told them. "This girl isn't dead. She's only asleep." But the crowd laughed at him. After the crowd was put outside, however, Jesus went in and took the girl by the hand, and she stood up. The report of this miracle spread through the entire countryside. I really enjoy this set of verses, this particular tale or recount. Pick your term for it, really. This moment in history that several of the Gospels have. I think all four, actually. But each one of these accounts, we see the woman suffering through her 12 years of constant bleeding and suffering. More than likely, a lot of pain, too. And, I've heard sermons on her faith. Because in real time, we're getting to see that the faith of a mustard seed will move mountains. That believing for just that tiniest moment, if I can just touch this blue thread on the bottom of its cloak, if I could just touch that tassel hanging there, and if I could just touch him, I'll be healed. That kind of simple faith that pushes until it sees, and God works mightily. I've heard incredible sermons about throwing the rabble out, throwing the crowd out. The group that says, "Oh, well, it can't be done," or laughs at the person who says otherwise. I've heard sermons on being in the right group, in the right area to continue to prosper, surrounded by those who are like-minded in the Word. To me, though, what I wanted to share today was more of the mindset. Because we see two mindsets that are slightly different, but the same, in regard to believing that the Son of Man, Jesus, the Son of God, can do anything. The woman and her difficulty with the blood. I really wish we had a name for her. Let's call her Agnes. I like Agnes. She's dealing with this suffering, this agony, 12 years of constant affliction, which probably has had her at least one point in her life just look up toward the sky and just cry out to God, "I am too tired to live. Either put me down or give me some strength or something, because I just can't do this crap anymore." And I straight up give. She's probably had more than her share of those moments over 12 years of suffering. She's probably had more than her fair few moments of asking God why she has to be Job in those moments. Why she has to deal with the suffering and the difficulty to that extent. Said, "God, you've had one, Job. Why are you making me one?" In 12 years of suffering, oh yeah, you'll hit a lot of walls. But she and the synagogue leader here both recognize God has all the power. God has all the authority. Just touching him can heal. Him coming and laying hand can raise the dead. His very presence, his very nature, has control over this world. Calming the wind and the wave. Curing disease. Raising the dead. Opening the eyes of the blind. Opening the ears of the deaf. We're seeing the miracles that he's talking about take place in real time. And we're seeing them take place because of a mindset. A mindset of belief, a mindset of trust. I've heard through C.S. Lewis that, in order for one to pray to God, one has to at least believe that God is there and willing to hear the prayers, which itself is an act of faith. And I find it interesting that these acts of faith are what push forward to see the impossible. 12 years of suffering and agony and fatigue, damnation, ready to give up and wanting to die at any moment because of that suffering, to be cured in an instant. To not only hear that, but to hear our Abba Father, our Lord, say, "Daughter, be encouraged. Your faith has made you well." That believing that God would set it right, that He could set it right, that His very nature and presence in our lives can change things for the better. That's the kind of faith we see here, from her and from him. Faith that says, you can bring her back to life. I mean, he's a synagogue leader, so we know at the very least he does understand a bit of the finer points of living and dead, especially since according to Jewish law, the priests were supposed to do a lot of that checking. So, or Jewish law. Anyway, the point is, he knows this idea of alive or dead. He comes running in. Look, she's dead, but that doesn't matter because you're the source of all life. I'm suffering with these injuries that no one can help me with, and I don't think there's any hope, but you can set it right. That's the idea I want to get at here today. The core idea that I want to be meditated on. That position of faith, that posture of trust, that's saying, yes, I know what it looks like, but I also know you're greater. I know what it seems like, but I know the fact that you're greater. I know what this moment weighs like on my soul. But your burden is easy, your yoke light. That's the kind of trust we're invited to have. Simple, pure. Because at the very least, recognizing that God is there and wants to hear what we have to say, wants to help us, that's an act of faith. And it's all step in the right direction of relationship. So if you're in a place of darkness or pain or suffering, or you're in a moment when you can barely breathe because the darkness of life is crushing it around you, remember that Christ can make it right. He can make it well. Raising the dead with a touch. Healing affliction. His presence. Because Jesus felt the power go out of him. She's the one who grabbed his robe. Sometimes we have to pester God. And Jesus said himself that sometimes we have to keep knocking and knocking and knocking and knocking for God to hear us. That's a part of relationship. And when we knock, listening to what He has to say. Don't say His no for Him, let Him speak it. Chase after Him in relationship. Because from a place of trust, a dead daughter came back to life. And a dying daughter was made whole. And that's really good news for the rest of us. I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow as we continue chapter 9 with Jesus healing the blind. Verses 27 through 34. Go ahead and read along. Or read ahead. Because the Lord is right here with us. Every day. Strengthening us. So I ask that His favor be upon you, that you see the strength He gives you, so that you may shout out in glory song of praise. And I ask that hope fill your bones, because even in the darkest place of shadows, even in the most difficult of seasons, even in the darkest of moments when there seems no way, He makes a way, because He is the way. And there is light in those dark places. It'll be seen. Just chase after the source of light and life. Because you're more loved than you know. And I promise you, He'll see you through whatever comes next. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.